Hey everybody, it's Nerdy30. Thank you for joining me for the first video of my PC flipping series. This video is going to be titled the $150 gaming PC in reference to how much money I have into the system. This system is going to be the first of many to come where I hunt for used PC deals, trying different methods to try to find the best value that I can. Get these systems cleaned up, get them back into the hands of gamers, keep them out of trash cans and recycling, and then to see how the performance that they get along the way. The goal with this series is to make as much money as I can to put the profits back into building my own personal gaming collection, which is the whole reason I started this channel. This specific computer came from shopgoodwill.com, just like the last computer, the $25 gaming challenge. So this system is a Dell XPS 8700 that I found for about $70 back when computers were still kind of hard to come by. As you can see with this system, it's got some dirt and dust and grime on it. I usually clean the systems at the very end of my process, like wiping down the exterior, because they tend to get grubby and dusty again as they're out updating as I move them around. So I usually give them a thorough cleaning on the outside is the last step of my process. These XPS computers are a really nice deal if you can find them, because they are about the same price as Optiplexes of the same generation, but they usually have more features. The first feature that I absolutely love about these XPS systems is that the factory power supply, as you can see here, is a 460 watt unit. Sorry, it's a little blurry right there. From the factory, that comes with PCIe power connectors out of the power supply. If you want to change the system power supply, it's not a big deal, but it's a good way to save a little bit of money with a reliable system power supply. Second off, it comes with built-in Wi-Fi. The upgrade path for this computer is going to be using this HP OEM GTX 1060 3GB that I picked up for $50. I cleaned everything and did all the thermal paste changing off-site just to save a little bit of time. The next upgrade is we're going to upgrade from 8GB of DDR3 to 16GB of DDR3. And then we're going to install this 1TB SSD that I got brand new for $30 on Amazon. Here comes a montage of me putting the parts in the system. I've sped it up since we've seen this a lot. As you can see, everything is very straightforward and easy to get into the system. I think the whole process took less than 20 minutes to install the upgrades. The 500GB hard drive was running a little slow, so I've got it on my workbench to run some crystal discs to see if it's even a good drive to use. If not, it'll be recycled responsibly. The first game I tested was Fortnite. This game, super popular, obviously still played by a lot of people. This was for the, I believe, the high presetting, and this was just what the system did. The FPS is in the top right corner of the screen. Get a little bit of stutter jumping in, which is pretty common for Fortnite for some reason. It doesn't seem to matter if it's a low-end system, mid, or high-end. Always seems like it's a stuttery intro into the match. Now, please forgive me, as I've said before, I am not a Fortnite player. This is me actually playing in build mode, which I forgot to actually turn to no build because I like no build a little bit better, but doesn't change the fact I'm still not great at the game. So on high settings, the system is easily doing 60 FPS plus. Sometimes it spikes up to 80 or 90, kind of depending on where I'm at in the map, what I'm doing and running around. A good way to enjoy the high textures and maybe limit some of the frame stutter would be to cap the FPS to maybe, I don't know, 120 or so. As you can see, you know, it's running real well, but once again, don't hold it against me. I'm a terrible player. This next footage is setting on low settings or pro settings, where everything is low except for the view distance, which is set to high. I apologize in advance. Some of you may notice the frame of the video is a little bit slanted. My tripod got bent. I did not realize it. Also, as you may or may not notice, there is a little bit of shaking every once in a while. That's me physically having to touch the camera to engage the recording, because my little handheld Bluetooth clicker to start the camera is apparently dead and isn't working. Anyhow, with pro settings, if this is even still considered pro settings, we are looking at a little bit smoother of a drop in, but still, you know, that 100, 110 FPS. Still a little bit of stutter, as I said. This time we get landed, and we're running around at a solid 90 to 110 FPS, just running around. I wasn't really able to get into a ton of gunfights this one. I'm trying to keep my time frames for these videos more consistent than the last video I made, where I promised it in X amount of time and it took like 6 weeks to get out. So I was really happy with this performance. I actually had my son watching me. As I've said, my son's a huge Fortnite player, and he was really impressed with the system, and he said he'd have no problem playing it on the system. The last version here, we tried performance mode, just for the sake of performance mode. Now, I would say the limiting factor with this system was the 3 gigabytes of VRAM on the GTX 1060. Fortnite still ran great, and it actually still looks really good. This is a 900p monitor that I test on. The system was running easily 100 FPS, 150 FPS, just running around. When areas started to be less populated, I saw 200 FPS several times. I did cap I believe I did cap the FPS at about 200 to 240 FPS. I'm just trying to explore and try to generate different environments to really push the graphics of the game so I can see how the system performs. Once again, I don't really know the hotspots of the map or anything. I guess I probably owe it to you as viewers for me to take some time to invest into the game to learn it a little bit better, so I know where to put it through. But you know, as you see, jumping in the car is great. There's no tears, there's no stutters. I was really impressed with the system. Once again, terrible driver, not great at this game. Moving on to the next game, I decided to throw a new one into the mix, and it is Rocket League. Rocket League is not a super demanding game to run. It's actually a game I like. Once again, not super great at it. I just graduated college last year after 5 years, so I'm only within the last 10 months having the free time that I had, you know, back in my childhood to start to play games again. As you can see here, I did forget to turn on the FPS counter that you'll see a little later in the video. I do apologize about that, but as fast-paced as Rocket League is, this was perfectly playable. It was fun, super easy, looked great. I had the settings on as high as they would go for the system, and it was a good time. So, you know, perfect esports computer, capable of playing some modern titles at medium settings. The next game we tried is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This next footage that you see is with me turning the game on and running it at recommended settings, where the game configured the settings of the game based on the hardware requirements that the system had. Once again, fair warning, I'm not great at Call of Duty. I play Call of Duty on my Xbox in the rare occasions that I play Call of Duty, so please forgive my noobness. But as you can see here at recommended settings, just hanging out, we're running anywhere between 45 to 55 FPS. Pretty smooth. No real stuttering that I noticed, and I would call it a pretty playable experience. This next series is at the minimum preset, and jumping into a match, the footage I had for the last match, I realized that that's how I found out my clicker for recording wasn't working, because I played about 10 minutes and wound up not capturing any footage. But I test these systems, I get them cleaned up, I put them in storage until they're ready to go on to their next home. This game, and most of these Battle Royale games, I am terrible at parachuting. I do not know how to get in. I'm sure there's ways to do it, or perks or something you can buy. I feel like that's all I was doing was parachuting. Might as well call this Parachute Simulator. I'm just kidding. Anyhow, on minimum settings, I noticed that when I was in really more populated areas where there's buildings and more stuff going on with the scenery, it seemed like the FPS was about 5 to 10 frames per second higher than the recommended. So, you know, when I was at 48 to 50, I was, 55 to 65 on the minimum presets, and once again still looked very playable. This was me standing in the corner trying to figure out the buttons, because I realized in the middle of this that I skipped the tutorial. I really didn't pay attention, so I don't know what anything does. You can see here, terrible aim, and I get absolutely destroyed. 15 seconds into the game, I at least gave this guy the shout out of watching the kill cam, but was very, very happy with the system. This is another match where I tried again at the lowest settings just to see where we were at. Changing everything to low, absolutely low as possible. Bumped the base FPS down to averaging about that, 45 to 50. Seemed like the higher end FPS came out a little bit more on low settings. I don't know if you can see the counter too well. This was the Windows gaming overlay, Windows G. I didn't realize there was that. Totally slipped my mind. But the real bottleneck here on the GPU is the VRAM. 3 gigabytes of VRAM, GDR5, GDR6, doesn't really seem to matter. That is going to be the limiting factor for this system. The 4th gen i7 is still a great value, and you can pick these systems up all day long for between $50 to $75. This computer was picked up probably March of this year from shopgoodwill.com, because I was still having a hard time sourcing computers locally. Usually I buy my stuff in bulk in auction, and I get them for pennies on the dollar. So you can see here my awesome, amazing skills in Call of Duty are showed, and I was killed by a helicopter. So overall, I really, really was impressed with this system. I paid $70 for the system, $50 for the GPU, and I believe $30 for the graphics card. So somewhere between $140 to $150. Goal is to put it up for about $225, and I'll throw in a mouse, monitor, keyboard, and we'll see what we can do. I'm Nerdy30, and I'm signing out.